Success happens when you work together.
Absolutely.
Right? It's hard to get to whatever level that you're trying to achieve. And us as women, and again, I'll say it again, as women of color,
that part,
it's
which is
even harder. So you have to be able to have that support and work together, because we're not, like, we don't know everything.
Right.
One individual does not know everything.
Hi, thank you for joining yet another episode of Get Set with Lissette. This is where we have inspiring conversations that empower you to get set. And as always, this one's going to be another one of those hot topic, great conversation, heavy hitter moments. Today, I have sitting with me Sheena Lansanah. She is a licensed realtor, a property manager, an investor, an all-around entrepreneur. You may know her as the sneaker-wearing realtor. Hey, Sheena.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good.
Let me just say, I knew, and we talked about this prior to, like, I knew that the topic of today's conversation, there was no one better than to have the conversation with you.
Yeah.
And the reason being, fun fact, so I just want to go back, when I actually got my license for real estate, Sheena was the first person that actually reached out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't reach out in the mindset of like, hey, well, what can I get or what can I do or any. It was more, how can I support?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you actually had gone down this venture. What do you need? How do we like support one another?
Yeah.
So that's the way that it started. And if we really get serious, like I've known you since high school.
Yeah.
Like back.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
All the way back.
All the way back.
Yeah.
And all memories always lead themselves to those kinds of moments.
Yeah.
Moments of like, hey, how can I show up? Hey, how can I be there? So it just felt right that today's topic of conversation in particular is about empowerment, but not just empowerment, women empowerment.
Yeah.
And women showing up for women.
Absolutely.
So who else to have the conversation with? Then, like I said, having a full circle moment.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Full circle moment and bringing you on. So before every episode, just to kind of get the things out, and I know you're not one to get like nervous or whatever.
Oh, I'm nervous. I'm not even going to hold yours.
But just to kind of go ahead and get those things out, I always do like a quick rapid fire, are you? And it's like this or that. Okay?
Okay.
Don't overthink it. Just kind of go.
Okay.
Sweet or salty?
Ooh, I'm salty.
Okay. Morning person or night owl?
Oh, no. I'm a night owl.
Night owl all the way?
All day.
Oh, she's like,
All day.
all day.
Yeah.
Okay. Introvert or extrovert?
Ooh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm actually an introvert, extrovert.
Okay.
Like
an ambivert.
Yes. It kind of takes, like, I have to work up to being an extrovert.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I really have to process and be like, okay,
yeah,
I got to get myself together to be an
Absolutely.
extrovert.
See, and with me, I feel you on that.
Yeah.
I can turn it on easily.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely an outgoing, friendly personality, like all of that. However, people, they take energy from, and I need, when I'm really, really on or I've had like a busy day, that's where the introvert side of me goes.
Yeah.
I need a full recharge. So I always say I'm also 50-50.
Yeah.
Because like I can turn it on.
Yes.
But I also then need recharge.
Yes.
Like I know individuals that people literally give them energy.
Yes.
Like the more individuals that they're around, like,
Yes.
they continue to go upwards on their energy levels. Whereas with me,
I go down.
I'm going down.
Yeah, me too.
Like I can keep it up there
Yeah.
and then I'm like, it's slowly just.
Yes.
So I get it.
Yeah.
And then the final one, my dear, and there is no wrong answer on this one.
Okay.
Are you going to watch the YouTube or listen to the podcast?
So I am a podcast listener.
Love it.
That's kind of like what I listen to music, but in the car, but during the day, I'm listening to podcasts.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a listen.
You're a listen.
Yeah.
Like I said, there is no wrong answer. So I totally understand. So for a little context and the ability for us to kind of like frame ourselves around not only the fact that we're having a conversation about empowerment, and like I said, women empowerment in particular, we're choosing to have the conversation now,
Mm-hmm.
particularly now.
Yes.
For a very particular reason, because March, whether people are still going to or not going to acknowledge it is Women's History Month.
Yes, it is.
March is Women's History Month.
Yes.
Like I said, whether we want to say it is or it's not anymore, it has historically been Women's History Month. And so I went ahead and I looked that up because the history of Women's History Month actually began as Women's History Week back in 1981 when it was first established, which when you think about is not that
is long that long ago. No, not at all.
Right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was when Congress passed a resolution to celebrate women's contributions during the week of March 7th, which at the time that we're actually recording, we're within that week in general, which I thought was just serendipitous and perfect.
Yeah. That's crazy because when we had this conversation, I didn't even think about that.
Exactly. That's why I said, but it was literally, that's when it was actually established, which then goes in alignment with International Women's Day, which falls actually on March 8th, which is also on the same week.
Yeah.
Which I found it to just be perfect. And that's that global day where we celebrate the social, the economic, the cultural, and political achievements of women.
Yeah.
So this paired with then the contributions, I feel like it just makes for the perfect moment to sit down and have this conversation, because I think that it's imperative.
It is.
That we continue to shine light regardless of anything.
Right.
Look behind.
Yes.
As a means of how we move forward.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And no better time than now.
Yeah, than the present.
To uplift.
Right.
And empower and be present.
Yes. And have this conversation.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to kind of give context on all the reasons why this is
the perfect moment.
The perfect moment for this. Exactly.
Yes.
The ability to have that conversation.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that I like doing though is, so we have the context, we know the reason. I shared the amazingness that is Sheena today, right? No, 100%. Let us not shy away. You're doing the thing.
Thank you.
When I say all around entrepreneur, we're not gonna go through it all, but all the ventures.
Yeah.
All the things. And just all around good spirit.
Thank you.
I think more than anything, that's the most important.
Yeah.
Just
agreed.
All around good person.
Thanks, Lissette.
Yeah. No, it's needed to be said.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And it needs to be shared.
It's always compliments are always, y'all probably are seeing me but yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, and I'm a firm believer that people deserve to have their flowers.
Absolutely.
In real time.
Yeah.
And the ability to give flowers here now versus when it's too late.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yes.
We tend to hold those things in, and I openly and freely give flowers when flowers are due.
Absolutely.
When they're needed, when they're present, when you see them. So, girl, take them all.
Thank you.
Take all of those flowers.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And with that, so let's go backwards.
Okay.
So, who is Sheena? Where did she come from? How did she start?
Well, Sheena is born and raised Harrisburg, PA.
Email.
Harrisburg High grad.
Yep.
Go Cougars.
Go Cougars.
And it took a minute to figure out who exactly Sheena was.
Okay.
But I am a lover of people and collaboration.
Okay.
I am a person who is very relational.
Yes.
I move out of that. I feed off of it, and I will remove myself from a situation if the relationship is not there. Everything to me, I feel like there's so many people in this world now who are transactional. And I don't know how to move in those types of spaces.
Right.
Because
Fair.
I am a relational person, which is really crazy, having that type of personality in this business, but it works for me.
Yeah.
Because I love people to actually see my heart. That's important to me.
Yeah.
I need you to see my heart. I need you to see that I'm showing up in a way where I'm supporting you, I'm rooting for you.
Right.
And at the end of the day,
Right.
if you see that, then I feel like I did my due diligence.
You did your due diligence, 100%.
Yeah,
and
sure.
You're able then to like have a genuine relationship with an individual, and it's not about the just this that we're getting done.
Right.
It's about what does this mean for the ripple effect of all the other things.
Right.
Where does that lead us into? And then naturally in that, then it gives you, in my honest opinion, because you know that I'm also a very relational individual.
Yeah.
To almost my detriment.
Yeah, same here.
Well, it's almost my detriment. But I do want to believe in my heart of hearts that having that as your core, like it will lean itself to, like, I'm a firm believer that good will win in the end. Like in the end.
Yes. And then sometimes I feel like people sometimes think that you're naive for thinking that. Like,
I am same.
But I feel like if most of us approach things that way, we would just kind of be in a better space.
Right.
But like, I don't know, like for me, like I pride myself on being that way.
Okay.
I pride myself on wife, mom, like friend, daughter, sister. Like I pride myself on those relationships.
Absolutely.
So for me, like I feel like you should show up for people the way that you want them to show up for you.
Right.
It's really that simple to me.
Absolutely. And that's all it is.
Yeah.
In that same regard then, like, who were inspirations that like showed up for you?
Yeah.
And how did those relationships like form?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like my mom is one of the constant people who always showed up for me.
Amen.
My friends, my husband, and my husband's parents, which is so crazy.
I love that.
Because some people say, most people don't have like really good relationships
It's like
with their in-laws.
Horrible in-law kind of.
Yeah, but I've known my in-laws since I was 17 years old, 16, 17 years old. And they, as well as my other family, have always been people who showed up for me.
Yeah.
And in different aspects of my life. But one person in particular that kind of like really had a key piece in molding the heart that I have is my grandmother.
Ooh.
Yeah. She passed, but she always poured into me.
Yes.
And she showed me how to show up. And
that's a word.
Listen, she showed me how to show up. She's a woman who had a 3rd grade education.
Wow.
And she always pushed education on me.
Right.
She cleaned for Harrisburg Area Community College for years, and she also cleaned for another person, but she always went to work. She always cleaned. She was just, but she was also there for her family. She was also there to pour into people.
Yeah.
All the time.
Absolutely.
And she showed me the importance of that.
Of showing up.
Yeah, of showing up.
Man.
And just in a way where it wasn't overbearing. It was more so like, hey, what do you think about this? And then give me little tasks. Every Friday was fried fish Friday. So she would want me to go out and get her fish.
Yes.
Every Saturday I was, since I was maybe 13, I had to come vacuum her upstairs. So she was showing me how to take on responsibility of, I'm giving you this task.
Right.
So come.
Right.
And show up.
Show up.
Show up.
Actually do.
And then if you do that, then here's the reward.
Amen.
So even though now, hindsight being 2020, I didn't know what she was teaching me.
Absolutely.
But yeah. Sure.
And so isn't it amazing? Because I could say the same thing. Like for me, my mother is like.
Yeah.
We speak every day, several times.
Yeah.
But it's in the unspoken. It's in the small moments. It's in almost even, and again, this is for me, but it's in the watching how.
Yeah.
she shows up.
Yeah.
Watching how she moves.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That when I look back, I'm like, oh, I picked that up from her.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I'm this way for my family, for my, like you said, friends that are now family, because my mom was that way.
Yes.
Since I was young.
Yeah.
My mom's the oldest sister of 6 girls.
Okay.
Now, she's one of 9. So there were 3 older brothers, but then she's the older sister. And it's literally 6 girls from there.
Yeah.
And the way that she has I feel like my mom has a soft yet stern
That's my mom.
presence.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Makes complete sense because my mom is like that too.
Like, you know not to mess with, but she's also not the loudest.
No.
She's not the rowdiest.
Nope, she's not confrontational.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
And yet,
yeah,
you know that ain't the one.
Exactly. Her presence is felt.
Her presence is beyond felt.
Yeah.
So I just find it interesting that you went straight to that, like mom, grandmother.
Yep.
Like, it's that same constant of like the women before us.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. And I mean, every pivotal moment in my life, my mom has been right there. Like every business venture, a nickname I have for her, I call my mom Madam Secretary.
Ooh, you better go, Madam Secretary.
That's what she is.
Yes.
Like when you think about the role,
yes,
she's there. And not just for me, like for like again, my husband, same thing. She shows up when he was playing. My mom took care of our house here. Like,
wow,
was just everything.
Absolutely.
So that's where it comes from.
Like I said, I quietly, like, I'm always amazed at the parallels.
Yeah.
At the when you're having conversations with individuals, and it doesn't matter like what their backgrounds are, whatever the case is, like the fact that you can kind of like see yourself in or see the relationship and like understand it and say like I resonate with or I get that because of. So how would you say that those relationships then influenced you?
I would say that they influenced me in a way of you want to make them proud, right?
Beyond.
So so you have like this invisible battery that no one knows about in your back that keeps you motivated to do more. Like you've seen what they've done. You see how, they worked hard, they provided for their family, but you get this idea of now I can do more than what they did. Like, so they did this. Okay, I know I can accomplish that, but how much more can I do? So you kind of strive to make them proud,
100%.
which kind of just, keeps you going.
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
You're not even saying anything. One of the things, and again, that's where this conversation goes to as far as empowerment and things, and we're going to veer off for a quick second.
Yeah.
But you're saying something important because I actually, again, when I speak mom, I've had this exact conversation with my mom where we've had conversations and I've explained like where my mom comes from and like her upbringing and what she experienced. Like they were in survivor mode.
Absolutely.
They were, trying their best. Like my grandparents, God love them, made huge decisions, moved from Puerto Rico to Philly. Like, they uprooted their entire family for the sake of and for the desire of trying to like do better, build them up, do what they could. But like they were constantly just trying to like figure it out and survive. Right. My mom then, and I always say like my parents, because this isn't just my mom, but my parents, but I'm saying mom because that is like, for the sake of the conversation.
Yeah,
but in general.
Yeah.
So, but what they ended up then creating was stability.
Yes.
Like, so I always say like you took where you came from and you leveled up.
Yes.
And you created stability for my sister and I.
Yep.
And you created a sense of security.
Yes.
And, you did same concept. They pushed education and and I ensured that I went and first college graduate. And, all the things.
Yes.
but I was able to do because of what they did.
Absolutely. And the sacrifices that
and
they
the
made.
sacrifices that they made.
Absolutely.
And so every time we talk and we're always saying it, and she's like, well, you've already done enough. Like, why do you keep going? I'm like, well, now it's my turn to level up.
Absolutely.
And I no longer want to have just stability.
Yeah.
I want to thrive.
Right. Right.
Like, that's my responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, if you look back, we've leveled up.
Yes.
At every different point. Like, I'm not going to take this and just stay here.
Yes. It's supposed to be a stair step.
It's supposed to be
It's supposed to be.
So that then if I can thrive,
Yep.
I can create an opportunity that we now have a family
Yes.
of thrivers.
Exactly. Exactly.
And individuals that can go far out beyond
Right.
what they originally anticipated or
Right.
thought.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. That's real.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure.
I'm like, could I have and do I have and am I okay here? Absolutely. Do I have stability? Yes.
Yes.
I'm not looking to just stay this.
No. Because that offers a level of complacency. You know what I mean? And
That's
not what we were taught. Not taught complacency.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
No,
You're
100%.
taught to create a stepping stone so that it can be better for generations after you.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And so I say that's hence the reason for the conversation of how they did influence you. And I wondered, and it is parallel because of the fact that, like I said, I feel like it's what you said, that unspoken, hidden.
Yeah, that battery. Yep. That's in your back that nobody really, they don't know. Like, they don't know what, that's why it's a great question, because you don't know what's motivating somebody. You don't know what's pushing them. Some of it is, for some people, it's survival, whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
But yeah, like, that influences me to make them proud. Like, that's what I want to do. I even, like, down to, like, I know, like you said, your dad too, my dad as well, like, is definitely very present, very around, you know what I mean? It was around in that time period, and his work ethic, like, to the point.
Same.
My dad still works. My mom still works to this day.
Wow.
They're in their 60s.
Absolutely.
They still work. My dad took a year off, retired.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he got sick when he did. And I think, yes, and I wholeheartedly believe it is because for so long his motivation, his work was to provide for his family and to do all these things. Now his kids are out of the house, grown. He's now retired from a job he's had for 35 years. And he's looking around like, now what the hell do I do?
That's a real thing, though.
Yeah.
Like,
he added addition to his house
and
then got sick. So after one project was finished,
that was it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that transition of showing how, so you speaking to what you just said,
Absolutely.
like, how to thrive. Well, we keep going because it's what we know. We're trying to establish more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then when your identity is wrapped up into, working.
Yeah.
And providing.
Right.
And that now.
That's your soul.
Yes. And that now leaves because your kids are grown.
Right. Right. They're gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
Right.
They're doing their own thing. They're creating their own life. They're establishing their own family.
Absolutely.
And now you're like, okay.
Right. Like, then, so what do I do?
Yeah.
And then that creates an opening for him to end up being more susceptible to sicknesses, because your whole, like, defense is down. Like, in all.
They have to figure out what was wrong with me.
Yeah, probably is exactly what you're saying.
That's crazy.
He was like, let me go back to work. I promise you I'll be better.
And he's back to work and he's fine.
And that's real.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, and so to look at me bring it back full circle.
Yeah.
So finding where your identity is, like, tied to.
Yes.
And then moving towards that, like, how does that not lean itself to that idea of empowerment and that idea? And then also, like, showing up and being present and being like, this is my why.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that in and of itself is what empowers me to keep going.
Exactly. So even, like you said, bringing it full circle,
which I love,
was built into my core, like, through my parents. It was it's the core of me. So
to go and do.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. In that same vein, now, we know each other from way back when.
Yes.
We're very similar in this. Like, I have a core group, right?
Yeah.
Like, my A1 day one.
Yes.
Like, I am infamous of putting people into categories.
Yes.
And it's just because of the way that my heart is built.
Yeah.
I need to have people in different categories because I can't give at the same level.
Yeah.
And if I give you a certain title, certain place in my heart, then like you're gonna get it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I feel like, because people laugh at me when I'm like, no, like that's an associate. No, that's not a friend. Like I categorize, but I categorize for my own self-preservation.
Absolutely.
Because my heart's so big.
Absolutely.
So in that regard, though, I have a core.
Okay.
And it's a core of girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
very different from one another,
Mm-hmm.
different ventures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always think about, where would I be?
Oh gosh, that's serious right there.
Without?
Yep.
You know,
yeah, that's a fact.
Because in talking about our topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Familial ties, absolutely.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But there's also a clear indication that familial ties, like, it's family. So that's just what it is.
Right.
But when you've got that core, that mirror,
so important.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
That, like, the hard conversations.
Yes.
The sitting you down in love.
Yes.
The holding you accountable.
Yes. That part.
Right?
Yep.
But then in that same concept, the championing that they do.
Yes.
The celebrating.
Yes.
One another.
Yes.
And the love that is, like, shared.
Yes.
When you have that core, like, do you have it? I know the answer, so I'm like, spoiler alert. That's why I'm not really saying it. But do you have it?
Yeah.
And B, when we're talking about this idea of, like, women supporting women empowerment, like, how does that show up, and how is it prevalent in your circle?
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I know what it is for me.
Yeah.
And we can go back and forth, but, like, what does that look like?
So, yes, as you know, I do have it.
Spoiler alert, I know.
I do have it, and have had it since I can remember.
Right.
I feel like now, like you said, when you talk about core, I feel like at this big age, I feel like that I appreciate it more. I feel like that I lacked appreciation for it long time ago.
Yeah.
But now at this big age, I appreciate it because it's needed. Like to the core of you, like to your soul. It kind of feeds it. And it waters it when you're feeling depleted.
Yes.
You
Good
get what I'm
word.
saying?
Absolutely.
They show up in ways that sometimes they don't even know. They don't even know, what you need.
100%.
Right?
100%.
And then I also have realized in this big age that when they experience something, it's almost like you feel it. You feel it, you take it on, you're kind of like
100%.
Okay, like we gotta rally together and figure this out. But it's so important, like, and to spend time and to just be present, like be present in it.
That's the word.
Yeah, to be present in it, because it's one of those things that I feel like it's kind of hard to put into words, to be honest. Yeah, it's a feeling.
100%.
It's a feeling. And so much so, like when you talk about like being high energy, and you need this energy to kind of be in those spaces and things like that. But when it comes to your core group, you don't need it
at all.
That is your replenishment.
100%.
It's like they feed a certain part of you that you're able to kind of be vulnerable, completely transparent. You don't have to put on. And when I say put on, it's not that you're being fake or anything like that, but you don't have to show up in a way where you have to be strategic about how you navigate, right? When you're with your core, girl, you can just take the veil off and be 100% yourself. And no matter what that looks like, how ugly it is, how crazy it is, 100%. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then for them to be able to hold you accountable, for them to be able to kind of pick you up when you're feeling down.
Right.
Or call you out on like, I don't think maybe you shouldn't handle that way.
Right. Yeah.
That's important. That is really important. And I appreciate it. Like,
I agree.
I appreciate it 100%.
I brought it up because, like you were saying, like, so the idea and the concept of us supporting one another and being in different spaces and places, and like you said, especially with us being, you know, in an industry, that's more male dominated.
Absolutely.
Like, that's just what it is. Like,
Yeah.
the real estate industry in general is male dominated.
Yes.
So then finding relationships that are going to support you in that is important.
Yes.
But they can vary.
Yes.
And they can come in different waves.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I thought it was important to say this before we go into like the idea of like showing up in relationships in other like arenas.
Mm-hmm.
I personally find, and that's why I wanted to get your opinion, my core, and you said it perfectly, like you are able to take your veil off.
Yeah.
And you can just be.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And to me, it's like the perfect opportunity to continue the conversation from going. Because like we said, family is family, and that's what it is.
That's what it is.
But when you find a core of women
Yes.
that you don't have to put on, do, show, all the things, like the bells and whistles of it all, you can just be 100% who you are. Like the level of replenishment and the level of just rejuvenation that occurs is something that I don't think I can put into words. And you were saying the same thing. Like it's something that in my big age, I find it imperative for my ability to move forward.
Yes.
Like every last one of those relationships, because each one of the women in my core circle also hold a different part.
Yes, for sure.
And serve a different piece.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's almost like each one has a quote unquote
role. Or yep.
And they're all just as important as the other.
Right.
And like you said, they know without knowing when they're needed.
Yes. Yep.
Like it's, and that's why I'm like, I can't even like, there's a beautiful, science isn't the right word. I don't know, but there's it's
a chemistry.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Like there's a beautiful, when you find women that just, they see your heart.
Yep.
They're not looking to get anything.
Right. No.
They just love you for who you are.
Exactly.
They want to see the best in you.
Yes.
They want you to be able to put your best foot forward. And if there's nothing greater, in my opinion, than that core when we're talking about women empowerment.
Absolutely. For sure.
Like, and for women who don't have that, my heart breaks.
It does. It does.
Because,
or the women who have blocked it, who block it.
That's fair.
Because there's some people who have been hurt by people.
That's fair. That's
that
true.
Block it.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
And that is it like you said, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that every woman should have it. Because, you know, there's some women that say, oh, I don't do women like that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't really. Guys are more.
Right. Me as a younger me, like I did have, like I was like the friend.
Yeah.
With like guys.
Oh yeah.
Like I had, like I was a little, tomboy is the wrong word, because I was always like cute and fashiony and like, and just whatever.
Right.
So I wasn't like wholeheartedly tomboy, but I did have my core.
Yeah.
But I've always had that
me
circle.
Yep. Me
and so that is where I always go back to.
Yeah.
So I get women who say, I do men better kind of thing.
Yeah. But I just feel like the older you get, you realize you need these people. Like you do. You need these people that you can lean into.
100%.
Because, I mean, life be lifing.
Now, if I ain't going to say nothing else, if life ain't going to do nothing else.
Listen, it's going to life.
It's going to life.
Life be lifing. So you need those people.
Absolutely.
To show up for you in certain areas. You know?
Because if not, I feel like I would be lost.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And I feel like there have been moments in my life, and I know you can feel this way. Like again, I'm known for categorical relationships. Like I put people in categories out of, like I said, my own self. But had it not been for that core, like I feel like there are moments where I would have been lost.
Oh, yeah.
Or moments where like I could have almost forgotten
who you were.
Who Lissette is.
That's right. That is right. That is right.
You know what I mean?
And they'll call it out. They'll call it out in you. Like, come on.
You know.
Yeah, you know.
You know what I mean?
You know.
And I think that, again, best segue. I am segueing my behind off today because I feel like there's an unspoken, and women, y'all know what we talking about.
Yeah.
When we say your core.
Yeah.
Like, for those that have it and for those that don't, whether because of hurt or whether because it's not something you've ever done, I implore you to find your tribe.
Yeah. And it will come too. And sometimes it's right in front of you.
Right in front of you.
It's just a matter of you letting your guard down and allowing it to happen.
100% and leaning into it.
Yeah.
But I say that because, so let's now talk about like, how does one show up? Like, what does empowerment really look like?
To me, empowerment, it doesn't look away. It's felt, right?
Amen.
And just to kind of take it back into in the beginning.
Right.
About when you got your license and I reached out to you. Right.
Fun fact on that.
For that was just from my heart.
Right.
Like, oh, this is great. Let's get. And I mean, and I have shared with you plenty of times.
Absolutely.
And said like how great and how dope and this is your lane and you are amazing. And to the point, like even said to you, like, hey, like if you don't, then I'm not.
Right.
Because that's how much I believe in you. So I don't think it looks a certain way, it's felt. And the way that it's felt is where it comes from. So if it's coming from the heart and it's coming from a genuine space, right? You feel it.
Yeah.
You feel it and you know it to be true. And you know, we have our differences, right?
Right.
But when you actually look to empower a person,
right,
sometimes you're doing it and you're not even realizing you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just kind of
100%.
moved in that space.
Right.
So,
or you're giving a word or acknowledgement of some sort and not knowing that is exactly what was needed in the moment that it was needed.
Yes. And something simple as like, sometimes I'll be on like social media or whatever, and someone will have something on or and I'll be like all under their comments like, girl, work, I love it, like you show up, okay, I see you. And sometimes some people think that it's disingenuous, but when it's coming from me, it's real, because I don't pay a compliment to something that I don't like.
Same. Right.
I'm not gonna just say it just to say it.
Right.
I'm saying it because it's really what I feel.
Exactly.
Like, because if I don't feel it, guess what?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it.
But then again, even to that, like when you're saying that, like how some people, it may sometimes seem disingenuous or whatever. But in that vein, I feel like sometimes that's people can only see things from their lens and where they are.
Yeah.
And so I think at times things can get misconstrued, not based off of the actual, like the person that was giving.
Yeah.
But rather either someone else who sees it and then they're not there, or they move from a different way being. So they're like, oh, then that has to be, because if it were me.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like people can only accept and see things based upon the lens in which they are currently at, or from what they
that
can
is
view
so
from.
true.
So I'm learning that because I tend to I'm the kind of person, I give people the benefit of the doubt.
Same.
And I want to move from, the whole platform, like inspiring conversations, everything. Like the reason why I do things that I do is always to put the best foot forward and to just be positive. Like I try my best to, even on my worst days, try to find something good out of the whatever. Right?
Yeah.
So, but because of that, I am learning that not everyone
Mm-hmm.
moves from that same
Right.
space or place. And that's okay, because at times you can get frustrated in that. But now I'm at the point of like, that's okay, because they're not where I am
Right.
in that moment. Or they're not able to see things from a certain like lens, because that's not their path or their viewpoint.
Yeah.
And so I say all that to say, so like I'm learning that like I'm still gonna do and move and give the compliment and give the kudos. And I big people up randomly at stores.
Yeah.
On the street. Like I'm infamous of, if I see another girl, another woman,
Me too.
that looks whatever, I am going to pay the compliment. I'm gonna, girl,
it goes a long way. Because it goes a long way. You don't really even know what kind of day that person is having.
Exactly.
And not that you just wake up in the morning and your motivation is, I'm going to make somebody's day great.
Right.
Like, again, it's just what is moved on your heart
absolutely
to do. That's so, you know, and it's kind of like just a little bit on topic, but
go.
This morning, my routine, I always go to Starbucks in the morning after I drop my son off from
we know.
school.
Yeah, well, y'all don't, but I know.
And I'm chatting on the phone with my mom. And I'm walking out of Starbucks, and this little girl and her mom are coming out, and I'm not really paying attention to their conversation.
Right.
And I just overhear her say, like, "Oh, her sneakers, the sneakers or whatever." And she was like, "Well, ask her where she got them from." So the girl goes, "Excuse me."
I know that.
And I was like, I turned around, and she's like, "Oh, sorry, I maybe shouldn't have said it that way." I was like, "Oh, baby, you all right?" She looked like she could be like my son's age.
I got you.
And she was like, "Where did you get your sneakers from?" So I told her.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Okay." She's like, "I like them." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then I was like, "Your hair is beautiful." So she had her hair up, and it was like in this big afro puff. It was so cute.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Your hair is beautiful." And she was like, "Thank you." But to me, like, you give those compliments.
Absolutely.
She's liking my sneakers. Her mom is like encouraging her to like just ask her where she got them from.
Right.
And then, I turn around and acknowledge her. And then I see this beautiful, thick puff of hair.
Yes.
And it's nothing to just
and to
say
give
it.
that. And
when you think it, say it
out
loud.
Yeah.
No matter who it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important, and we're saying it like, and we are still on topic because, I can't think of the name. She's been on a lot of different podcasts. She's all over social media. She did Cam Newton's podcast.
Oh, Dr. Bryant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I saw somewhere where she had said, it's going into what you were saying, and this goes directly into that idea of women empowerment and specifically showing up and being present in the moment. She was going into a plane, like they were boarding a plane or whatever, and other people were boarding a plane, and she was already seated because she was in first class. And so she's sitting there, and she's in first class, and she's kind of like minding her own, not really doing anything, and there's like a mom and a daughter, so it's the same concept. That's why it led me to this thing that I remember her saying. And the girl was saying like, "Oh, well, why is she sitting here?" And like inquisitive, like, what's going on? Like,
I think I heard about this.
Of this whole thing. But it leads me to think about that moment, because this is empowerment. So after, like, as things were going, same concept, lady tells daughter, like, well, say something while they're waiting. So she says something to Dr. Brian, and then I believe you're right on that.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Brian, "Oh, you're so beautiful." Yeah. Says something to her. And then after everything was like cleared, but before they took
she got the flight attendant.
She got the flight attendant.
Yeah,
and she
I remember
told
this.
them to have the girl, if the mom was okay with it, to allow her to experience first class, and she moved her seat so that the little girl would be empowered.
Yes.
And to see herself.
Yes.
And to feel.
In that space.
Yes. What that feels like.
Yes.
And it lets me to, I thought of that when you were talking about this, because it's the same concept. Even if it is something as just being complimented on your sneakers or seeing where you are when it comes to a flight. When a woman sees another woman or a young woman or whatever, and you can visualize yourself in, or you see something that they have that maybe feels out of reach.
Yes.
The ability to lift your hand out and raise them up. Or pull them into a position to say, this can be.
Yes. Yes.
dream higher,
Yes.
be present in the moment,
Yes.
and lend yourself to, like, does that not, like, that in my opinion is empowerment at its
Yes.
at its best.
At its core.
Like,
At its core.
yeah,
For
like
sure.
just showing up in those. And so I
Yeah.
thought of that because I wanted to know, has anyone ever shown up like for you in that arena, or have you ever experienced something of that nature? Like when we discuss these kinds of things, like
Yeah.
what does that look like even in this industry? How do you move the way that we're talking about this way of being? Now let's go into like, what does that look like in our actual like industry?
In our industry.
Yeah.
So there are so many like women,
Yes.
and particularly women of color.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Because not only are women
Right.
like not really kind of put up there when
Right.
it comes to our industry.
Mm-hmm.
But women of color, it's like a double whammy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when I was getting into this,
Yeah.
coming into this
Mhm.
world,
Yeah.
I was like looking and searching for, and I reached out to our previous team leader, and she was receptive.
Yeah.
Right? She was like, okay,
But
let's do this. And then you had Ernice, you had Ernest Campbell, Tracy Carter. You had these people that him. Yeah, you had these people that have been in the game for a good minute.
Right.
The crazy part about it is Ernest was actually the first person that sold me and my husband our investment property.
Really?
She was
Oh,
our first one. So like it's women like that, right? That you look at and you say like, okay, yeah, I can do that. Like I can do this. I can see myself in this space.
Yeah.
And I'll take it back even further. Like when it came to wanting to go to college, right? My mom didn't go to college.
Right.
My dad did, but obviously I'm young. I didn't see that happen, right? My best friend's aunt is the one who invited us to Temple. We came on campus, and it was giving different world vibes. Like I was like, oh, yeah, I want to do this. I want to go to school. I want to be, I want to be a college educated woman. This is so dope to see.
Yeah.
So it's things that have taken place in my own personal life that kind of like pushed me. And then here we go again, this imaginary battery in the back of my mom saying to me like, oh, you have a younger sister. She's 5 years younger than me. She's going to look and see what you do, and everything that you do, she's going to try to do it better.
Wow.
It's just the way of life.
Right.
Like when you have a sibling.
Absolutely.
And I was like, okay. So everything that I've done it was mirrored for me. And I mean, I can name a bunch of women that I see now that are doctors. One in particular, I call her my big sister.
Yes.
Danielle Martin.
Okay.
She's Dr. Martin now.
You better go, Dr. Martin.
Yes. I've known her since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
Cheerleading, Packers. My aunt was her coach. I watched her from that time. Went to college. All of those things. Now she's Dr. Martin.
Absolutely.
So you have these examples around you.
And that's what you're able to use to then fuel you. And that's a beautiful way to say it. Like, because when you can see yourself in.
Yes.
And then especially when you can then not only see yourself in, but you have an ability to then also share space with now.
Yes.
I feel like that makes a huge difference.
It does.
And going back to what you said from the very beginning, and look at me bringing it all the way through.
Yeah.
Like those relationships create, in my opinion, all of this is, we're just having conversation here. They create the trajectory of like how you'll then show up.
Yes.
And how you'll continue to go forward. And also depending on how those first interactions move can impact how you then move going on.
Yeah.
Because it's that ripple effect. That idea of you throw a rock in and then watch
how
it kind of goes out. And I think that that's just like the baseline of this entire thing. Like not only is it the relationships that you find and you foster, but it's then the best way to really empower someone is to A, see yourself in that.
Yes.
And then B, be present in the moment of whatever it is that's happening. And then from there, like just leaning in and allowing them to kind of like be a part of or show that it's okay to kind of like take space within those things.
Yes.
So that's my way of kind of bringing this around completely full circle, because I wanted to get your perspective on how you then are able to continue to do that when at times relationships don't foster that. Like, how do you maintain an ability of being an empowering woman when we're in a place where we're pit up against at times?
Each other.
Like, do you see that? Or
I do.
And how does that kind of like, how do we work through that?
I think that you have to be intentional about like where you are personally.
Yeah.
Right. And when I say where you are personally, like how secure are you within yourself? Like for me, like God is the foundation of everything for me. Right.
Same.
So like sometimes you really got to take things to prayer. Like because when we're left to ourselves,
and our own vices.
Oh my God. Like it can get a little murky.
Amen.
You know what I mean? So there's certain things that you have to die of yourself, right? And in order to die of yourself, then you have to be willing to kind of relinquish that control and allow God to allow you to give you the wisdom to move and how to move in certain spaces.
Amen.
Right? Because it's not always sunflowers and peonies. Like it's not.
Right.
Sometimes those relationships don't end the way that you would want them to.
Right.
But when you sit back and you really think about it, and it's one of the things that you always say, like, if you want to be the change that you want to see, right?
Absolutely.
How can you do that? Right. So in that, I feel like even though X happens or Y happens,
whatever it is, exactly.
Stay true to who you are, to your core, right?
Okay.
Still show up the same way that you will always show up. Because sometimes when we get hurt, when certain things happen, it can change how we, show up in spaces and how we support people.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
But going back to again.
Yeah.
Sometimes those people are not in a place to receive the same way. They're receiving from a place of where they're at.
Right. Right.
So how do you protect it?
Right.
And again, I say prayer is where it starts. God is where it starts for you to still be able to do and pull up and
absolutely
and still empower people through all of that.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that that's important to share. And the reason why I ask that is because it's easy to talk about women empowerment from the stance of when everything is great and when things are good. And I would be remiss to not discuss what does empowerment look like and how does that show up when it's not great?
Right.
Like, how do you still stand true? Because, like I said, it's very easy to have conversations at the peak of whatever those topics of conversation are. It's in the valley that you need to really, 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 like, is this something you're true to? Like, are you genuinely going to continue to be someone that leads with empowering and support? Are you going to, and then what does that look like when it doesn't look the same?
Yeah. You got to ask yourself.
Exactly.
What do I want people to see me as?
Absolutely.
Right? Right. I walk into a room. What do I want people to see me as?
Yeah.
What do I want to be felt? Like, regardless of the atmosphere or the surroundings. Because like you said, it's not always great.
Right.
Right? Right. It's not always fair. It's not always good.
Good. Right.
So how do we do that? How do we show up? And I think if you know who you are to your core.
Right.
Like, and I can speak personally to myself, like
absolutely.
Me knowing and being secure in who Sheena is.
Absolutely.
And knowing my heart. However you move is how you move. Like, that's you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt.
Right.
It doesn't mean that that I don't get upset.
Right.
It doesn't mean any of those things, but
absolutely.
It means that I have to sit down sometimes and be like, but how do I want people to see me? At the end of the day, you can do what you do.
Yeah.
But how do I want people to see me?
Amen.
And you also have to be okay with if they're not seeing you the way that you want them to, you got to be okay with however they see you.
Absolutely. Exactly.
And still move true to who you are.
And sometimes empowerment is knowing that and then just removing. Because maybe that's not the space or place. And it's okay.
Yes.
It goes into when they say, and this is like a horrible example, but it's the right example. It's like that idea of your value is not based upon like where you are right now. Like it's a matter of you being true and to the core of who you are. And then if your value is not valued here, then find your space. Like that idea of like a soda at a mini mart or whatever is, $1.25. That same soda on a plane is now $2.50, $3.
Exactly.
That same soda somewhere else, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, like your value isn't based off of like circumstance or like that situation. Like you have to find where you're valued, and then what that looks like.
Right.
And I wanted to say, and I wanted your opinion on this. For me, I also feel like being truly true to myself and what empowerment looks like to me at times. I mean, and in full transparency, it's what we ended up doing with each other.
Yeah.
Like it's space.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not in a place right now today.
Yes.
And you're not, we've had these conversations where it's like, look, I adore you.
Yep.
I love you. This is where your path is headed.
Yes.
This is where I'm headed.
Yes.
It doesn't negate anything, but for our own sake and our own well-being, like this is how it's going to look for now.
Yes.
But then empowerment is also future.
Yep.
The ability to then say, you remember when?
Yep.
And holding each other still accountable.
Yes.
Having those conversations.
Yes.
Bringing ourselves to the carpet. And just being real and vulnerable and true to what it is.
Yes.
And then saying, and then finding that balance.
Yes.
And I think that that's important to share because sometimes it might look like space.
Yes.
Or like you're not there, but that doesn't negate the fact that wholeheartedly still championing and cheerleading and still being present. And I think that that's important to shed a light on.
Yeah, we can personally speak to that.
You know what I mean?
Because I do believe that sometimes that has to take place.
Amen.
And having that conversation, because we had it.
Yes.
I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to allow to happen. But still rooting and cheering people on. And I think that in some people's relationships, that becomes an offense.
Right.
Offense is taken. But when you're true to who you are.
Right.
On both ends. And you're able to, at this big age, have the conversation.
We're at the same big age.
Yes, we are.
Funny. Now we'll say what it is, but it's big.
But to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And move in that space.
Yeah.
And say like, no, I respect it. Because you got to figure out a way how to navigate this.
100%.
And then, again, moving forward, but still, again, championing each other on, still empowering, still celebrating, still clapping, still
absolutely
all of that from a genuine space.
Amen.
So that when it comes full circle, it's like you pick up where you left off,
and no time
has passed.
And that's exactly it. And that is, I think, empowerment.
Yes.
And women showing up for women.
Yes.
And women championing women to its core, which is why the way I started this episode is we're bringing back. There's no one else to have this conversation with than someone that I can like genuinely look in the eye and say, we've done it all.
Yeah.
Like we've been through all of
the things. Yeah.
And in this industry still show up.
Yes. Yep.
And never ever feeling like anything has to. And I think a part of that too, and I wanted to like shed light too, because I heard this literally this morning on a podcast coming into here, a different podcast. It was actually Oprah. I was like, it was actually Oprah's podcast, go figure. But it was a clip from, so it wasn't the full, it was just a clip. And they were having a conversation with a younger woman. And it lends itself into the way that we've been kind of like breeding this whole conversation, which I love. Like it's like a beautiful mix where there were these vets, these older women who have accomplished acts, having a conversation with a younger woman. So leaning themselves and empowering this woman.
Yeah.
And she was sharing frustration on like a situation. It was like one of those like ask in kind of things.
Yeah.
She was giving a story and she was sharing her frustration with a relation with something that was going on in her industry. And as they were talking, one of the things that were said was, and it hit me, it was, you have to understand how you're viewed and what their relationship is to you. And I thought that was important because sometimes we might think that we're something else than what we are, because what they had said was, based off of how she was explaining it, the co-host with that was there and present was like, it sounds like to them you were a resource,
Right.
and a resource is there to give. A resource is there to provide. And so you thought that it was X and they looked at it as Y.
Yep.
And so when you're feeling like, okay, but now I'm here, so the conversation should look different. The dynamic should be different. And her frustration was like, so why am I not getting like the same respect or the same? And they're like, because they still look at you as Y.
Right.
Like, and that never changed.
Right.
So again, when we talk about empowerment and like what that looks like, I think it's also having an honest and realistic viewpoint. You've said it yourself several times, like being firm in who you are, understanding what your relationship dynamic is
important. Yeah.
So that you don't have false expectations or set false expectations because you think that it's something that it's not.
Yeah.
So empowerment is having those like hard conversations and getting grounding on like what does this relationship look like? What is this?
Yeah.
And if you gain that clarity,
then
you don't have to fill in the blanks. Think that it's something different than what it is. Like you can walk into a space and be like, oh no, I know exactly what this is. And then I have the choice to choose, is this like fill me? Is it something I want to put myself in? Or is this something that doesn't serve me? And if it's not, then you always get the ability to choose whether you stay, are present, move on. Like, and I think that it's important to understand that in this conversation.
Agreed.
Because empowerment isn't just the loud woo-ha, woo-ha.
The woo-woops.
Right. Like, it's more than that.
Yeah, it is. And I think empowering on every aspect, right?
Yeah.
And very true. And I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions is people don't always know what relationship they're in, right? They assume that they're in this particular relationship, and then you have these level of expectations.
Right.
And then you find out later that that's not how that person felt. One of the biggest things, like that's the word friend, right? There's some people that really throw that around.
I told you I'm a category kind of girl, and because of that.
My friends laugh at me because I say, I'm really not that friendly. Like, and I mean, I know that about myself. I'm not. Like, I'm nice, but I'm not that friendly. I don't just randomly be like, oh, yeah, that's my friend. No, I don't.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
that's
right.
okay.
So, like, understanding, like, the relationship, like you said, with her, it was the resource. You were a resource, but you thought you were something else.
Exactly.
Now, this created a conflict.
Correct.
Because you thought it was something different.
Right.
And having those open conversations. But I feel like we go through life, business relationships, personal relationships, and things like that, and we don't like putting labels or titles or things on it.
Girl.
But when we don't, somebody ends up getting hurt or offended.
100%.
All the time.
Exactly.
It never fails.
Right.
So if you establish what it is, then you, again, like you said, you know how to move.
Right.
Like, I know how to move in this space.
Right.
Now, one thing that I have learned is that pay attention, because sometimes my optimism can be very, for lack of better words, like it can cause me to be a little bit naive.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying my best to see the silver lining.
Right.
and give people grace.
Right.
And again, it's me moving out of a space of wanting that same grace.
Right. Because
right?
you're like, this is what
Yeah, because we're imperfect people, right?
Right.
But understanding that people will show you, right, where exactly you stand with them.
Right.
And believing it. Like, you need to believe that. And it's not a bad thing to believe it.
Absolutely.
So when they show you,
right,
take that in.
Yeah.
And have the conversation.
That in of itself is empowerment. Like, because you need it.
Yes. But what happens is we see it, but we never address it. We just kind of like, okay.
Right. We're not confrontational people at times. Yeah. I don't shy away from confrontation.
Yeah. Right.
It's needed sometimes.
Right.
It's empowering.
Exactly.
Can we like...
Yes. Yes. But have that conversation.
Amen.
Like, this is what I saw. This is this. Right. And believe what they tell you. But then at the same time, there's some people that are not honest.
Yeah.
About
what things are.
Yes.
Or at times it could be, because again, here's my optimism. She's talking about her naivety, and here I go. I think at times it's a lack of self-awareness.
Absolutely.
And being aware. And I think that that's part of it. And when we're talking about women supporting women and what that looks like and what that means, like, not only is it having individuals in your corner that can champion, that can be there, but there is a sense of self-identity and self-discovery that I feel like is needed, because in order for you to be able to genuinely empower and show up for other women and show up for other people, and like I said, do this for all people. It's just we're celebrating Women's History Month. So that's the reason why we're focusing on women. But I just like, do this for all.
Yeah.
However, intentionally when it comes to the women with other women relationships, because we have to show up better, greater.
Yes.
More prepared.
Yes.
More developed.
Yes.
More ready. Like,
all of the things.
All of the things.
Yeah.
Because we have to be the best.
Yes.
In order to be able to be accepted. When you're thinking about some of the industries that we're talking about.
Absolutely. Like, for it to be an equal, we have to do more in order for it to be an equal playing field.
So when we talk about that idea of the empowerment, because of that, like, we've got to go above in order to make an equal playing field. It starts with self.
Right.
And self-identity and self-awareness is imperative, because you're not going to know how you're able to show up for someone if you're not actually completely confident with where you are and who you are present.
Right.
So I do think that sometimes relationships go awry and you're like, well, dang, I thought it was this, but clearly they didn't. But I think sometimes it's not a lack of that they didn't. It's more of a unaware of what it was.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just kind of preface, because, and again, that might be me being super naive, but I think sometimes self-awareness can create a sense of uncertainty, which then can lend itself to relationships and conversations and things going left, but out of pure not being aware.
Right.
And then if you're not comfortable with self, then you can lose
absolutely
yourself in that manner, and whatever it is that shows up in your life.
Yeah, because you kind of become, I feel like when you're not self-aware, you have a higher probability becoming a chameleon.
Fair.
Right? Because at this point, you are changing yourself based off of the relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
For whatever reason.
Fair.
So if you're looking to empower someone, you can't pour from an empty cup.
That
right?
That's
or
real.
A cup that keeps changing based off of
whatever.
Yeah. It's places or spaces that you're in.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to shed light to that, because then bringing even like context into it when we're discussing like women in different like industries and women in different places, like when you have people that do champion, that do show up, that are clear, like statistically speaking, Harvard Business Harvard Business Review, they had done a study that said that women are 2.5 times more likely to be more successful when they have like specifically another woman in said arena to kind of champion. Like we're 2.5 times more likely to actually be successful in whatever. And this one they were talking about leadership positions, but like in any industry, when we know that there's another person to champion. And so I wanted to kind of bring even that stat because it shows that when you are clear,
collaborative,
and when you then are able to collaborate, and when you're there to really support one another, like we're stronger together than we are alone.
And the crazy thing about it is, yes, that's the because we're talking about women,
right?
That's a women's statistic to show that we are more successful when we work together.
When we work together and be collaborative.
But it as a whole,
exactly.
Like when you think about, let's just put it into perspective.
Yeah.
Right. Your beloved Eagles.
Oh, go Birds!
Just won the Super Bowl.
Yes, they did.
Do you think Jalen Hurts would have won that by himself?
Absolutely not. Exactly. Well, and the reason why, if we're going to go ahead and go left, and I love this analogy because I can talk football all day, and y'all know I'm an avid Eagles fan. But I'll say this. He never discusses himself. And even in the midst of his press tour and everything that has been said about him and, oh, you've done this, you've accomplished that, his response is always, I'm as strong as my offensive line. I'm as strong as the defense and how they were able to get the ball and they turned it over so many times. And so it goes into great analogy, the importance of collaboration and the importance of genuinely being like team oriented.
Yes. Exactly. Because that's where success happens. Success happens when you work together.
Absolutely.
Right? It's hard to get to whatever level that you're trying to achieve. And us as women, and again, I'll say it again, as women of color,
that part,
which is even harder. So you have to be able to have that support and work together, because we don't know everything.
Right.
One individual does not know everything.
Absolutely.
And if you feel like you do, that's a form of selfishness.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, you might not get there. And if you do, you're not going to stay there long.
Right. And also, in the event that you are the best at whatever it is, then you need to go into a different room, because you should not always be the smartest in the room.
Absolutely.
Because then you're complacent.
Right.
You're not challenging yourself to something greater and better.
Right.
So check the room.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And here goes. All right. So this goes into it, but I want to actually share this fact in general. There's two, because even as much that, like, as far as women have come, and the fact that collaboration is so important, and the fact that we are more successful in different arenas and industries, we're killing it. There was a global stat from the World Economic Forum as of 2023, and I wanted to share this because this is the premise as to why it's important for us to continue to champion. Because as of 2023, we're 68.4% of the way to global gender equality. So that's about 2/3. And this is as of 2023, right? We're 2/3 of the way of being fully like gender equality across areas of like economic participation, education, health, and political empowerment. Now, here's the reason why I wanted to share it, though. That's as of 2023, that we're finally at that 68.4%. So in the time that it's taken us to get there, based upon this current rate and based upon what that looks like, it is estimated that it would take another 131 years to close the global gender gap, which shows
it's proven.
And it shows that while, yes, we're making great strides. Yes, we're 2/3 of the way. Women showing up for other women, women championing other women. We're stronger together than we are divided. Like, we can make that needle move But even in that regard, with the way that we're doing it right now and with the current rate that it's at, which again, kudos to us for doing what we're doing.
Right.
131 years is crazy.
It's bananas. It's bananas. But you think about it, right? I feel like we are our own worst enemy. If we really want to talk about it.
Go here. Like, that's crazy.
We are our own worst enemy. And not for nothing, but we can back it up all the way down to, okay, do you remember when Hillary Clinton ran for office?
I do.
Okay. Now, just recently, we had Kamala run.
Oh, don't get me started.
I know. That's why I said I'm not going to go in deep, but you think about it, and when you break down the statistics of how many women supported and voted for her, it's really not that high.
Right. Because we still don't believe that a woman can actually
do it. Right. But if we band it together, the success would happen.
Right.
But because we're still in this statistic and we're going to be here for another 131.
Like I said, it said based upon the current rate that we are moving. And like I said, kudos for us for that 68.4% that we've gotten to. And again, this is globally. Like, this isn't even just
here in the United States. Exactly.
Globally.
Exactly.
Like, strides are occurring.
Right.
But at that current rate, it takes us 131. But I agree with you. I would be willing to bet that if women actually started to be more collaborative, if we generally show more support in whatever industry you're in.
Yes.
If when we say that we're going to show up, we show up in numbers and we actually put our money where our mouth is and genuinely support, right? That's a way to empower each other.
Yes.
Give our time. And be present and be at whatever different events or whatever it is that people have. Create space and opportunity and platforms to champion and celebrate one another. And continue to just be present and genuinely be there. We could try our best to speed up.
I agree.
That 131 years that we've got still to go.
Right. I agree. And I think one of the biggest things that is one of our pain points when it comes to doing that is understanding that there is enough room at the table for all of us.
Amen.
Right? I think what sometimes gets in some of our heads is that there's not enough space for it to be more than one woman at the table. Because some of us get so laser focused on success and trying to get there and climb the leadership ladder, right? And make it to what we consider successful.
Amen.
We sometimes miss the mark when it comes to our other female counterparts that are around us.
Absolutely.
And thinking that it has to be competitiveness or I have to shrink you in order for me to grow.
Right.
When that is completely the biggest misconception.
100%.
Especially based on the statistics you just gave. Right?
Yeah.
So if we kind of shift our mindset a bit and understand that if we make room at this table for all of us to sit here, then it can happen.
Agreed.
And I always use the analogy of there are 2 top soda companies in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
Absolutely.
How is it that they can coexist together?
Girl.
But we cannot figure out how we
can coexist
as women can coexist.
Absolutely. And to be fully frank, I'm at the point and at the mindset that if there's not room at this table, I will bring my own.
Bring it or build it.
Or build it. I'm at that point where we live in a time like no other where information is accessible.
Absolutely. It's
at your fingertips now. Opportunity is endless.
Right.
So if I can't fit at your table, whatever that table is, then I will invite others. I will bring my own and I will find others and invite them to said table and we will continue to build. Now, in that same vein, though, I would love that I can then take my table and we bring the other table
and push them
together.
Yes.
Because then we can only continue to actually grow.
Exactly.
And that is empowerment.
Yes.
That is showing up.
Yes.
I believe in my heart of hearts, and I want to continue to say this, like, I want to believe that there is enough for all.
It is.
To win.
It really is.
And we can all champion, and like, it doesn't have to be like this versus that.
Yes.
Or whatever. Like,
we all get the same 365 as long as God grants you the
amen
ability to do so.
And that's how we have to go.
Yeah.
And that to me is everything.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say that. Now, in that same idea though,
Mm-hmm.
now we're going to talk specifically about how you see yourself going futuristically.
Yeah.
And more specifically, how then, like, I can continue to champion and how we empower one another in those ventures and what we've got going on. So I've loved today's conversation. It's phenomenal. Like, I can keep going, but what I want to do now is like give you the space and place to like, where's Sheena headed next?
Yeah.
What does Sheena have going on?
So Sheena is starting her podcast. This is something that is completely out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And kind of just again allowing me to kind of take my veil off.
Yes.
It is called the Kickback.
I love it.
Talking about the flyest kicks. Those who know me well enough know that I actually used to own a shoe boutique.
Yeah.
I love shoes. And I am the sneaker wearing realtor. I wear sneakers every day. So talking about the flyest kicks and just real life-ish, like real life stuff. Getting down to the nitty-gritty of the things that life be life in. Right?
Girl.
That and at my brokerage, I'm the sales director. So trying to grow that as far as finding real good agents to come into this industry and train them and pour into them.
Man.
Speaking to the women empowerment part.
That's exactly why. Yeah.
I have young women reach out to me all the time about getting into real estate, and I like to get to the nitty gritty. Like I tell them the truth. Like it's work. It's not like it's not your HGTV. Everything's great. You feel like you're not going to have to do anything in order to get deals. It's actually a grind.
Amen.
And being able to pour into them and show them how to be really good agents.
Amen.
And I wrestled with that. I wrestled with the team aspect of things.
Yeah.
But God was like, no, this is what you want to. Yeah, this is what you want to do. This is what you your purpose to do. You enjoy seeing people
absolutely
thrive.
Amen.
So that's the fruit of your labor. So yeah,
I love that.
Coming.
I'm so like, no one could be better for. Like, I'm like beyond excited for like those things. So I always do my key takeaways. Lord Jesus, for this one, I've been thinking while you were talking, I was like, let me think about where I want to start. Because this topic it's deep, it goes far. But when I think about the key takeaways from the conversation, there's a few things that I want to say. The first key takeaway that I want to share is, in order for you to be able to show up and empower another individual, it goes to what we were both saying and how you said it. Like, you have to be self-aware first. Like, you need to be firm, be clear on who you are and how you want to be seen, is how you said, like in rooms, like how do you want others to see you? And then you move accordingly. So that was my first key takeaway. My second key takeaway, and we've shared it multiple times, is that there is enough room at the table. We can all sit together. We're stronger together than we are separate. So be collaborative. Allow yourself to continue to lean on and first find your tribe and your people, and then lean on them and be collaborative. My third key takeaway, when it comes to this conversation in particular, and we're talking about like women championing women, like empowerment is so much greater than just the rah that you see when things are great. True support and empowerment is having hard conversations at time, sitting individuals down. It's giving space when space is needed, but then also being present when your presence is needed. So and knowing how to move that. Like empowerment is much greater than just rah. Like it's deeper than that.
Yeah.
And then my fourth key takeaway, and final key takeaway from today's conversation. And again, I could go in all different points, but I personally believe, and I know you have it as well, especially when it comes to women supporting women, like find your core. That core will hold you accountable. They will lift you up when you need to be lifted up, sit you down when you need to be sat down.
Yes.
Allow your ability to take off the veil, because the reality is that no matter where you are in life or what you've got going on, life be lifing, and we all carry heavy burdens every single day.
Yeah.
So when you find a core that you can leave your burden at the door and just sit and be there, like that is women empowerment in its best and in its greatest forms. And from the way beyond, like from the beginning of time, like you can find influences and moments and examples of women that continue to show up for other women. So find your core and hold true to them. And if you have a core, hold on tight.
Yes.
Love them dearly.
Yeah.
Because as you get older, you will learn that they will get you through some of the craziest things that life can throw at you.
Absolutely.
So where can people find you? Give all your handles on where you want people to find you at. So we'll have that at the bottom of the description.
You can find me on Instagram at SL the Realtor. It is the same for Facebook.
Yes.
I don't really do Twitter and those things, but those are the two places that you can find me. My brokerage is First Capital Real Estate. So you can find me there as well.
You know, you're the first realtor.
Yeah, you told me that.
The first realtor that I've sat down with.
I feel so privileged.
Like, that's women empowering.
That's women empowerment. Like, real talk.
Because
like, seriously.
I haven't sat down with any women out of pure, this wasn't about real estate kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much.
I just had to share that when you were telling and I'll have the brokerage and everything there, but it just dawned, like, we talked about it. You are the first realtor.
That's crazy.
That I actually sat down with.
That's crazy.
And I love that we really didn't talk about
it. We did not.
Which is this is an inspiring conversation.
Yeah.
And we empower others to get.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's take us out, guys. I apologize. That was just a quick moment that I had. So as always, sending light, sending love. Be great, okay? Show each other love, and let us continue to have inspiring conversations that empower you to get set. Bye.